Who's been the most influential person in your life?
Wow. I know it's a corny thing to say, but I would say my parents, and in particular my dad, and that's not taking anything away from my mum. My mum was a real hard worker. She had 2 jobs. So she would work 8 till 5 at Iceland Frozen Foods in the head office. And then we used to own a clothes shop, many moons ago. It was in the family. So then she went over and sort of helped out over there in the evening and did all the finances and things like that. So my mum would leave home 5 days a week at 7:30, and she wouldn't get back till sort of 10:30, having 2 jobs. She was a real grafter. So of course, this is not me saying, my dad takes all the credit, because if it wasn't for her, we would have, no balance in our family. But I was one of 5. My dad had this, straight away he was a professional footballer, and I wanted to be a footballer. So, he had my respect. He could do anything and I'd be putty in his hands, he was my hero. But he had this thing going, he never ever shouted at me, yet I was petrified of letting him down. So he straight away had a great balance. I don't know how he did it, or whether he meant to do it or what, but I could hardly play a game of football if he wasn't there. He was almost like my, not comforting, but I was listen, we're all show-offs, aren't we? When we're 3, we're like, Daddy, watch me do this handstand. Daddy, look at this cartwheel I can do. We're all show-offs at heart. And I couldn't perform without him being behind the goal. It was a comforting thing. Every time I got the ball, took a touch, beat a man, laid it off, whatever I did, I couldn't help but just have a little glance behind the goal to get the approval from my dad. And he was never a shouter. He never mentioned one word. He'd just give a little nod. And that little nod would make my heart melt. It was just like, yes, my dad's my mate type of attitude. And I've always had that. And only really until I hit the professional ranks, where you realise the enormity of it. It's your job, you've got a manager, you've got billions of fans, you've got all these things that, not that I didn't want to impress my dad, of course not, he'd be still number 1 on the list, but it just becomes a lot bigger. But the little game on the park, the little school game that you're having, him being there kept my standards absolutely to the maximum. I never ever drop off. It was on it. If I scored 8 but I missed a chance, I'd be fuming I didn't score 9. And so he just had that over me. And he was less of a worker than my mum, I don't mind admitting it. He got a job collecting insurance, collecting money or selling insurance. He only got that job so he could, he could do it in his own time. And if I had a school match at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he could just come and watch me and then work a little bit later. So he was didn't have my mum's work ethic, but he didn't have father me in the, and a little story as well. As I say, I was one of 5, and just little things that he got in my mind. Every Tuesday, we had no money as a family, and every Tuesday he would go down to the butcher's and get 1 piece of steak. Now all the other kids would have beans on toast or whatever, but steak would be for me on a Tuesday. And it was because, for when you're a footballer, you need to be stronger, you need to build up. Now, who knows whether that made 0.0001% of me being a footballer or not, but I tell you what it did do. It made in my mind, when you're a footballer, you need to be strong and withstand tackles and this and that. So it was, whether it had any influence physically, very, very I doubt it. But mentally, he talked to me like a footballer since I was 6, 7. When you're this, when you're that, when you're partnering Robbie Fowler in a couple of years, you need to be able to do, it was just an inevitability. That planted a seed in my mind, and there was never going to be any failing after that. So little things he did, as I say, steak on a Tuesday, it's irrelevant, but it planted a seed that actually gave me this mental belief that I'm going to be a great footballer.
Please do subscribe, hit the button.